Oh, man. The whole point is to share it on here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Embarrass the shit out of yourself.
Keep the conversation, as random as possible.
And you're doing a fine job on your end.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to JG's Lounge. I'm your host, Jukebox, and we are here with another episode of Stardom. And as always, I always like to tell you guys thank you. If it wasn't for you guys, of course, I'd still be doing this, but it's always nice to have an audience. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody. And today with me, I have a good guest, Brad Draper. How you doing?
What is going on? JG in the house invited me on here. Actually, I was like, oh, let's do a podcast. We talked about this forever ago, and then life happened. Welcome to life.
Welcome to life. You couldn't say it easier, man. It's that's kind of a big part of why I do this. Life gets hectic. You gotta be able to kind of have that release and be able to kick back and relax. And doing this is me relaxing. I love just talking to people from all over the world.
Oh, for sure. The conversations that come from, especially people you don't really know, it pulls things up that you would have thought of. They come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's true. And when I first started this, I literally had my phone and a little pillow fort and blankets to try to hide the audio. And I did a couple by myself, and I was like, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to do this or not. And then somebody on Facebook goes, hey, this is actually pretty good. Do you want to have some guests on? And they came on, and I was like, okay, this is great. Let's keep going.
I love it.
It's been 3 years.
Fort is where it starts. But where did it start? In a pillow fort.
In a pillow fort. So let's tell my audience a little bit about you, man.
Yeah, dude. My background's all over creation. I live in Salt Lake City. My background's actually in chemistry, so I'm a nerd. Let's go. And I was an executive for a laboratory for 12 years.
Okay.
So pretty much just a lab rat for a long time. And then a year and a half ago, I kind of just decided my goals are here. My path has taken me here. So often in life, we change our goals because our path is not leading us there. So I said, oh, it's just not in the cards for me. That's a really common one, right? It's just not in the cards. It's not in my path in life. So I said, screw that channel and wherever that's taking me, I'm going to keep my goals and I'm going to leave that path and chart my own path. So left that and created companies and created consultancies and found my way to an RV industry and was there for a while. And then now I'm back on my own entirely and just doing consulting. I help companies build quality management systems. So I write procedures and processes. Super sexy, just like being in a lab. But love fitness. I've been in fitness for 20 years. All capacity of fitness, weight training, endurance training, CrossFit, bodybuilding, you name it. I've done it all. And kind of just a general outdoorsy person. So I like to say I'm a regular dude, but then I say all these things that I start doing and then go off these tangents. I'm like,
right.
Not regular.
It's funny because I work some long hours. I'm a manager at Costco. I work some crazy hours. And I've tried dieting. I've tried doing all these things, and I don't commit. Let's say that. Okay. That's probably the best answer. And then I found something that did work is intermittent fasting.
Nice.
So now what I do is on my days that I work, water and coffee is about all I do while I'm working. And then when I get home, I'll have this 2-hour window where I eat. And then I'll, do some chores around the house, go for a walk, whatever, before I go to bed. Right. And then on my days off, I'll kind of have little breaks. But I've lost, 30 pounds in 2 months, and I'm 185, feeling good. Yeah. And it's nice. It's something I could do, and I don't have to focus on, how many carbs are in that,
Yeah. Just calorie restriction through intermittent fasting. For those that it works for, it works. For those that doesn't work for it doesn't work. Find something different. But that's how we all are, right? People like, oh, what'd you do? It's like, well, what I did doesn't necessarily is going to work for you.
Right.
But yeah, dude. Basic thermodynamics. I was sitting in a biochemistry course. You ready for this? It's in a biochemistry, law of thermodynamics, calorie in, calorie out, the end. And my professor was standing there, and he's plump old fellow. And he's just saying calorie in, calorie out. There's 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. do 3,400 calories, you're going to lose a little bit of fat over a period of time. You do that. You cut out 3,500 calories in a week, you lose a pound of fat, period. The end of story. And this chick, she raises her head. She's like, it's not that easy. No, this is called a law for a reason.
Right.
It is that easy. Now, I didn't say that it's easy to do.
Yeah.
It is that straight freaking forward.
Well,
And that's
like
what
commitment,
commitment. But I mean, you committed to intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
You said down 30 pounds?
Yeah. I went from 205 to 185, 205. Okay, 20 pounds. Either way. Still feels good.
Question is, do you feel better?
Yeah, I feel great. And at first when I started doing it, it was kind of a struggle because my stomach was like, no, you need to eat right now. And it's like, nah, I'm gonna wait. And then eventually it was not that hard. And then I go home, I eat, and I realize I'm getting fuller, easier, more full, quicker. And it's I mean, I feel fine. I told my wife, I was like, look, if I feel like I'm not, this isn't right, I'll stop doing it. But no, it works out great. And then on my days off work, I'll, eat a little extra here and there, but it's not, I still get full easy, quicker. And I'm not sitting here scarfing down, Snickers.
I love Snickers though.
They are good.
I could put down freaking Snickers, man. I started my cut. I cut this time of year every year.
Okay.
I do it just before the holidays. And I do that, and you're going to agree with what you just said, is I come into like Thanksgiving where I'm a fairly restricted diet. I'm not on a really hard cut this year. Years past, I've been on really heavy cuts. Restricted diet, my stomach's a little bit smaller, and my ability to eat is a lot less. So I can go ham on Thanksgiving, and that's not very much food. It's not a lot. I can eat whatever I want. A slice of pie that much is probably going to make me sick. So I'll have that much, and I feel great. I leave that, and I'm happy and content, and I'm not bloated and awesome. But if I go into that not on a cut, dude, I can demolish pies, plural. And I can just demolish food like it's not there, and you leave. You're like, oh, I feel so sick. I ate so much.
Yes.
But I
Hello. I lost your connection. Well, if anybody's watching this, we all know that there are, Wi-Fi issues sometimes, connection issues. Brad's probably doesn't realize that he's frozen right now, or he does. I don't know.
We're back.
There he is.
We're back.
There he is. All right.
I also went to circles. I'm like, I'm going to pause for a minute.
Nah, you're good. Yeah, you definitely froze for a second. I was just talking about how things happen.
Oh, there you go. And I was sitting there talking too, and I'm like, I'm going to pause my story. But
that's one thing about going live. It's you can't help things like that.
If it happens, it happens.
Right.
And so, I just kind of stumbled across that idea on fasting, or not fasting, but cutting or intermittent fasting, or what have you, restricting the calorie intake during the holiday season. And I just feel so much better, and I have such a better time because I just don't feel like crap.
It's big. That's big, especially when there's times I can remember many times where I've ate and I'm like, man, why did I eat that much? And you just don't feel good, and you just the rest of the day you're almost miserable because you ate so much.
But it's one of those, you go into it with a plan, like, I'm not going to eat that much, and then you just destroy it.
Yeah. But
interestingly enough, our brains, they do something very unique. Our unconscious mind does not understand what's called a negation. A negation is not. I'm not going to eat that. Well, unconscious mind doesn't understand that. It only understands I'm going to eat that. So when you make a plan of I'm not going to do something, you are quite literally programming your brain to say, I'm going to go do that. And therefore, there it goes. One of the fun facts about me, I'm a practitioner. I do altered states and hypnotic states. And so I do that for other people. I do it on myself every day. And I study the mind heavily. I'm a public speaker. I spoke TEDx 2 weeks ago. And
congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. And I speak to youth primarily, teenagers. So I've got gigs coming up that are all to youth, which will be super cool. I got an inquiry yesterday. This morning, that I'm super excited for. Next July, this is youth that are victims of sexual crime. It's ages 7 to 17. And the promoter saw my stuff. Like, man, I really think that your message resonates with this group. And my message is make today beautiful.
Right.
And all these things. And that was a really big, far tangent all of a sudden. But the reason why our brains do that. And so we say, like, oh, I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to have this job. I don't want to have this type of relationship. And you find yourself in that over and over and over again. That's because you are programming yourself to do that.
That's like saying, don't forget to do this. Don't forget to do this. And then
you forget.
It literally, yeah, within minutes.
The fast one, you got kids. Don't touch the hot stove. Beep. Kids are in the theta brainwave. We know this from brain scans. 0 to 7 or 8, 7 or 8, they are in exclusively theta, which is unconscious mind. They are only unconscious, which is why they learn so fast, why they absorb so much, and why they take everything literally. And the world in front of them is the only world that exists. There's no, like, we need to leave the park. No!
Yes.
It's because they don't understand they can come back. That's the theta brainwave. And you're in theta when you're in the shower. You're in theta when you brush your teeth. When you're in theta, anytime you do something habitually, you're in theta. That's just the habit forming practice. And so this brain of ours, don't touch the hot stove. Instead of saying that, touch right here. Touch next to the stove. Feel the heat. Feel that heat will burn you. So you direct your words to what you want. Right. Because you say what you don't want, you are in turn telling your unconscious mind what you want.
Right. Do you have any pets?
I did. We lost him. We had a cat. His name was Riddick. He was a black cat, kind of like from Hocus Pocus. He was a Bombay. And loved Riddick. He's such a stud. I'm not a cat person. And my wife said, baby or cat? Got a cat. And I'm allergic to cats, but Bombays are hypoallergenic. And so we got Riddick. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
Bombays are more like dogs than cats.
Okay.
And so they sniff your shoes. They come when you call them. They cuddle on the couch. They play fetch. And that's just general to Bombays. They're the black cats with the green or the yellow or the orange eyes. And they all look basically the same. It'd be really difficult to differentiate your cat from another one if they had the same eye color.
Oh, wow.
And so, but you can know their characteristics very, very well. They're very vocal. They don't do the meow thing very much. They just mostly talk.
Yeah.
And they cackle and they roll their tongue and just little stuff like that. And they do that kind of thing. So I grew up with dogs.
Yeah.
And we'll get a dog.
We currently have 4.
Yeah. We'll get another dog. My wife's never had a dog. We're waiting until our kids are a little bit older.
And I'm allergic to dogs, but I love them. So I take medicine just so I can be around them, man. They're too much fun for me, man.
Yeah.
At one point, we had 4 dogs, 7 ferrets, and 3 cats.
Wow. You had a zoo in your house.
Yes, we were a little local zoo. We live in a townhouse. I mean, it's a big townhouse, but
that was in a townhouse.
Yes.
Holy hell.
That's a decent sized townhouse. That's right.
Dude, there's no size townhouse on planet Earth for that many animals. Your cats, there are animals everywhere. There's everywhere.
And our dogs, we got 2 Pyrenees mixed dogs, and they're big. I mean, one of them's not even a year old, and he's pushing 100 pounds.
Mixed with what?
So the Pyrenees is husky mix.
That's a lot of fur.
We have a Pyrenees collie mix. Both a ton of fur. Yes. And then we also have a European import shepherd. Also a lot of hair.
A lot of hair.
But great dogs. Then we also have a wiener dog. A little wiener dog runs around the house.
They still have a lot of hair too.
Yeah.
They're just short hairs.
She's a short-haired one.
That's awesome. I love dogs. Pyrenees, the habits of Pyrenees are a blast. They're a fun dog.
Oh, 100. Yeah. So Gracie's our female Pyrenees mix, and she will she's the ideal guard dog. And I mean, she will, if the dogs try to get out, like tonight, which postpones the show, she will like stand by where the dog got out and like alert us, like, hey, here's where he got out right here, and like want to go help us get him back.
And tattletelling.
Yeah.
This is where he went out.
Great dog, though. Yes, the Pyrenees are fantastic dogs.
Yeah, I lived in Tennessee for a stint, and most farms had Pyrenees because they're fantastic farm dogs.
Yeah.
And they just sit there and run the perimeter, monitoring the perimeter, right? Doing the same thing that your dog just did, just protecting the herd. That's what they do.
Yeah. And that's what, like, the getting out part. Like, sometimes they'll try to dig out, or they'll just climb right over the fence because he's so big. Like, you know, if he stands on his back legs, he's over the fence.
He's the one that's over 100 pounds, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna be a big boy.
Yeah. Well, the biggest we ever had was in Newfoundland.
That's a big dog.
Yes, we had a Newfie, and he was mixed with Saint Bernard, but he was like
so he's big and heavy.
Yes, he was like 130 pounds, 140 pounds, and I mean, he was taller. I'm almost 6 foot, and he was taller than me when he was on his back legs.
Mm-hmm. Easily
big. He was a big
easily dog. Big boys. Yeah, we really like terriers, so we really like pit bulls. So pit bull terriers.
Yeah.
Love pits. They're really difficult with insurance. They're very smart. They're very timid. People don't realize that breed is very timid, very playful, and great with kids.
Yes.
And then there was a breed that was made to go around insurance. It's called the American Band Dog. It's taking a pit bull of any type with a mastiff of any type. You mix those two, you made an American Band Dog. Well, the pit bull's facial features and body structure takes precedence. It's the dominant trait. The size of a mastiff takes precedence. So just think of a pit bull that weighs like 120, 130 pounds, and up next to like a car door, they're sitting at the window.
Yes. Are you thinking about getting one of those?
I would love one of those. They're a blast. It's like a Cane Corso, but bigger.
Cane Corsos are beautiful too.
Cane Corso, but bigger.
Yeah. Hey, well, today's topic is not about pets. Okay,
let's go.
So let's get on topic. So, you know, you're definitely a motivational speaker. You like to kind of consult with people and help them. So I was like, you know, something I haven't seen in a long time is those signs that have those puns on them. You know, those businesses used to put puns on signs. So I found some classic signs that have some puns on them, and we're going to talk about them.
Let's do it.
All right. First one says, I can tell if people are judgmental just by looking at them.
Yes. How often do we do that?
Yeah. No, I say I can read people pretty easily. I mean, I grew up with very, very strong like facial expressions.
Okay.
And I think that might have something to do with it. But like, I get along with pretty much anybody. And if it's somebody that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get along with, I can usually kind of hold myself back or avoid confrontation. But again, it's very rare that I can't get along with somebody.
Where do you think that comes from?
I had a pretty rough childhood. I met a lot of characters that were very hypocritical. And I saw both sides of them. I came up from a very Pentecostal, hypocritical Pentecostal kind of family.
Holy rollers, baby.
You judged everybody in the church, judged everybody outside the church.
I always want to see somebody get slain in the spirit. I never saw it. I went to Pentecostal churches before, and I'm like, I want to see somebody get slain in the spirit. Never saw it.
Man, I tell people it's one of the scariest things I've ever witnessed was people speaking in tongues. Like to me, it was terrifying, just especially as a kid seeing it.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, so very, very, and I think that's probably kind of what drives me being able to read people in a sense is the fact that I came from such that. I mean, I was going to church 4 days a week, but everybody around me was so judgmental, and like if you weren't set in the way that everybody else was set, then you weren't on the right path, and it kind of took me away from I'm still very curious about religion and stuff, but I'm not like I don't go to church. I don't I believe in God, but I don't sit here and say this person's God is right or wrong. It's kind of how I am now.
So you're more spiritual than religious.
Definitely. I tell people all the time I'm more spiritual.
Yep. Spiritual versus religious. And interestingly enough, most people that I know in your situation that are very communicative, can get along with people, and can read people, typically came up from a rough childhood of sorts. One of my mentors, he is phenomenal at reading people. Like, that is a superpower of his. And he will tell you he has that superpower because his dad was a drunk, a bad drunk, abusive drunk. And he had to learn very quickly, is this nice dad or is this drunk dad? And he got down to where he could hear the keys going into the door, and he knew which dad was about to walk through, because if the key went right in and turned, happy dad, good dad, nice dad. If the keys didn't go right in and they jingled a little bit, mean dad. And he would protect his siblings. And so it was a defense mechanism on being able to read somebody very, very quickly.
Right.
But it turned into a superpower. How often do we hear that people have this, my life is woe and hard because I was in an abusive household? It's a very common statement.
Very, very common.
But if you took it on the flip side, I mean, look at you.
Yeah.
I
came from I'm sorry to I don't
You're good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My stepdad was physically abusive.
Yeah.
And we went through that for like 7 years, but my dad's this extreme alcoholic that lived 20 minutes away but never came and got us because he was always too drunk. And then my mom, I don't want to say that I blame her, but I mean, she knew it was happening, and so I don't necessarily blame her, but it's kind of one of those things where, mixed emotions.
Of course.
I don't really talk to her that much, but I remember when she left him. I mean, I would go home, get beat several days a week. I remember the day that she left, we went to stay to my aunts and my uncles, and the next day was like an eye opener. Like, I'd go to school, I came home, everything was fine, and realizing that things weren't that way. You don't go home and get beat. Like, that's not normal. That like was mind-boggling to me, and I still talk about that to this day.
And I mean, it's a superpower for you. It served you. It happened for you. And because of that situation, as dramatic and traumatic as it was, it made you who you are for a benefit. I know so many people that have gone through really dramatic and traumatic things, brutal stuff. Some that my life is woe and they don't do anything in life because they're played victim. And then the other side, that they just took it and learned from it. And how is this happening for me, not to me? And then learned the things that their superpowers at, their real gift was curated in that kiln of pain and sorrow and anguish, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely, and I say I'm a hard worker. I've learned a lot of things the hard way. I got out of high school, went and, kind of dabbled into drugs and partying, and mostly because I was shielded from a lot of that. I had no idea what it was like. To me, I was like, oh, what? I was curious. It was like, I moved out. So for about 4 or 5 years, like I learned a lot of lessons. Do I regret them? No, I actually became a strong person out of the things that I did. I definitely know what I wouldn't do anymore, kind of a thing that I've learned a lot of things the hard way.
At least you learned.
Yes. Yeah. About 25. I'm 34 now. I'm about to be 35. About 25, I stopped, and I had a kid, and I just stopped all of it, and I drink a little bit here and there, but when I say drink, a 6-pack lasts me like a month. That's how I am.
Yeah. And me, I mean, I can communicate with pretty much anybody. It's a superpower of mine. I moved 6 times by the time I was 12.
Oh, wow.
I crossed the country twice.
Wow.
And
I mean, were your parents always together?
My parents were together. My dad was military, and then he got out when I was 1 and went corporate and became a VP of international sales for a company. And then they just moved us around. So I was born in Chicago, lived in 3 cities in California, lived in New Jersey, and then ended up in Utah. Moving all over the place and being the new kid. I mean, I went to 3 different elementary schools and being the new kid.
Did you like that or no?
At first, not really, but it was also normal. I mean, I remember, let's see, I went to a preschool. Then I went to the elementary school there, and then I moved to another elementary school, and then I moved to another 3 elementary schools by the time 3rd grade. And it's kind of all I knew. It's just we're moving.
Right.
And by the time I moved to New Jersey when I was 8, and I moved to Utah when I was 13. And I was starting to establish friendships. I mean, friendships just didn't last that long. They didn't become very deep because I just moved quickly. But I had to pick up friends quickly if I wanted to integrate myself instead of just being an outcast. I'm a fairly extroverted person.
Right.
So I needed to integrate myself. And I wouldn't say that I liked it or didn't like it. It was just what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time I moved to Utah, I was pretty much done with it. I'm like, this sucks. And moving this much and having, it's not like I just moved down the street. I mean, going from 3 different cities in California, man,
Yeah.
different cities will be in different countries.
Yeah.
And then to New Jersey, very different, super
Yes.
culture different. Wasn't say culture shock because I was too young to understand that.
Mm.
Massive culture shock when I came to Utah. Huge. And that one threw me for a loop for sure. And now I've been in Utah 21 years. So I'm 34, also turned 35. I got hair.
Yeah.
But
you said you're 34 as well?
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I turned 35 in March.
Do you get told that you look older because you got this going on?
Oh yeah. Yeah, most people think I'm pushing 40 or older.
Yeah, same here. I got a pretty scruffy one.
Yeah, my beard has been about there. So Jesse and I have had beards of the same length.
Okay.
/ mine was longer or thicker, I should say. It was much thicker and wider.
Right.
And I shaved my head in 2016. And this is not bicked. It's actually just very, very, very short. It's a level 0.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's a level 0 with a T blade is what it's called. They use it for like skin fades.
Yeah.
So I do that in my head every single day just because I like how it holds. Yeah. I shaved my head for my friend because she was going through chemo. Okay. And I shaved all my hair off to support her. And I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And I never went back. That was in 2016.
Okay.
And
it takes a lot to maintain this stuff,
Oh, dude, my beard was 45 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I used to always worry about like bedhead, and
now you have bed beard.
Yeah. Bed beard, yeah.
Bed beard. Yeah, here we go. Let's pull this up. This was the last time my beard was this length.
Oh man. Yeah, you weren't joking.
Oh yeah, it got
the second one up top, the one in the middle up top. That's impressive.
Yeah, dude, that one right there.
Uh-huh.
And it was heavy and thick. And I did that in 8 months. My beard grows about 3/4 of an inch to an inch per month.
Dang. Yeah, see, this is like 4 years. 4 years of work. And there was about a year and a half where it was real patchy in the cheek lines.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, man, I didn't know if it was going to work. And then eventually I quit. I was like, I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to touch it for a while. I let it grow out. I started to look like I was homeless. And to a point where I was like, okay, I got to at least line it up. And then when I lined it up, I was like, oh, all right.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I need to do. Quit trimming it. Just line it up. And occasionally, like once a month, I'll straighten it and just kind of trim the little ends. But that's it.
I use a heated brush. They make those for beards now, but before they made them for beards, I used women's heated brush. So just put oil in, heated brush every day, make it nice and straight, take any flyaways away, keep it tight, keep it clean. It was a lot of freaking work.
Okay, you want to get the next topic out of the way?
Let's do this. Next one. Right, next sign.
Feeling a bit paranoid? Remember, you are not alone. I'm not a very paranoid person, personally.
I'm not a paranoid person either. And if you recognize that you're never alone, that might make things a little weird if you think deep on it. I mentioned earlier that I do altered states.
Yes.
And when you do altered states, you realize really fast how many people are in the room with you in different verses and different capacities that you may or may not see, but you may feel them, right?
Right.
It gets really interesting very, very quickly. And that's a topic. Go ahead.
Do you enjoy, like, what got you into that? Like, what is it about it that like intrigues you to do it?
Altered states.
Yeah.
And when I say altered states, I'm not using hallucinogenics.
Yeah.
I'm putting myself in trance and I'm putting
Mhm.
myself in an hypnotic state. I was invited to an event from a friend. He's like, "Hey, I'm speaking in Scottsdale. Want to go?" Okay, I'll support you. I went down and it was hosted by this coach. And he's considered one of the best, if not the best in the world at what he does. And he trains people in altered states and to reprogram their mind, to upgrade from DOS, which most people kind of roll in DOS, and upgrade them to the latest super quantum computer that it really is.
Yeah.
And I mean, that goes real deep, real fast. And I sat there and he did just one little example, and we did what's called future memory implantation. So that's implanting a memory in the future. And we did that, and I came at it, and I'm like, holy hell, that was awesome. Let's do that again.
Uh-huh.
And I immediately on the spot purchased his coaching, his one-on-one coaching and his course coaching. And that was a pill to swallow, man. That was the most I had ever paid at that point in time in a coach. And we're talking mid to high 5 figures.
Ooh.
Just put it down. Did I have it? Nope. I was like, do you have a credit card option on a monthly basis? And by the way, I'm still paying that a year and a half later.
Yeah.
But who it created is unfathomable. And yeah, I do really enjoy that topic. I love helping people resolve problems, to remove unresourceful states, like to remove fear, to remove anxiety, to remove depression. That is so simple to do for somebody that's willing. It's a very easy thing to do. To remove a phobia, oh my gosh, that can happen in seconds. People will struggle their entire life and realize, oh, this can be removed in literally seconds. Huh. Okay. Because the brain really is that powerful.
Yeah. You know, we've talked about phobias on here before. Do you have any? Are you scared of anything?
I mean, obviously scared of things. I wouldn't say I have a phobia of
Yeah.
anything per se. I have a healthy fear of a lot of things. And as I get older, I have more fears of things.
Yeah.
But they're a
Are
healthy
they
fear.
more natural? Yeah, I was gonna say, is it like a natural fear that, or is it like something off the wall, like, getting eaten by a shark in the lake down the street kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't have any irrational fears
Yeah.
that I'm aware of. And I have healthy fears of things. I mean, we are born with the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. That's babies are born with those two. So those two fears we're born with, it's in our DNA. Everything else has been taught in some form or fashion. You were taught it some way, somehow. And you decided that you were afraid of that at some point in your life or epigenetically before you came here.
I have a fear of dolls.
Dolls?
And not Barbie dolls, like this realistic life-size porcelain dolls that your grandparents had.
Yeah.
Because I used to visit my great grandma in Utah, Salina, Utah.
Oh yeah. Middle
And
of freaking nowhere, man.
Oh, I mean, you could ride a bicycle around the town in 10 minutes, if that. And
Yeah.
she didn't know. She'd forget who you were every 5 minutes. She loved to play dice. Her house was filled with these dolls, and it'd be 2 or 3 in the morning, and we'd wake up to her yelling at the dolls in the hallway in the middle of the night. She named all of them, bathed them, had conversations with full-on conversations with
Wow.
them. Yeah.
You
And
said
I
she didn't
mean,
remember your name. Does she have like this dementia?
yes, she had
Okay.
dementia. She had a few different things. I think she had real bad Alzheimer's as well.
Alzheimer's, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the last couple of years we visited her, I mean, she was gone as far as like just acknowledging things, but never lost. Like the doll thing was always there. I remember that very well up until about 12 years old. So yeah, I still kind of have that fear of it. I don't necessarily, I know that it was just her being her, but still, just remembering those vivid arguments at 2 or 3 in the morning with the dolls in the hallway were pretty terrifying.
I bet. Yeah, another fun fact about me. I was in the haunted house industry for 20 years. And yeah, we use dolls a lot because
Yeah.
that is a common fear, like realistic size dolls. And we had my friend Colby, he's a little dude. He's like 4'9" and 4'8", somewhere around there. And we had it was a women's mask, but it was a porcelain doll face with like a crack through it. And he'd put a dress on and then lay in the dolls. So we had these dolls and he'd lay in the dolls and then he would get up and chase after you.
That's good.
Dude, the amount of people that just fell to the ground on camera is unfathomable.
Yeah.
He loved it.
It's a lot of fun, though. That adrenaline rush, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love going to haunted houses.
Oh, yeah. I loved that space and being in there. And I was a manager there for 6 years. I taught character development and body language. So how to act scary, be scary physically, and how to create a character around all that. I did all that for a good number of years. But by way of just paranoia, fears, that kind of stuff, it's interesting how the mind works and plays tricks on you. And I mean, a newer fear I had just the other day, I hung Christmas lights in my house for the first time in my life. I've done stuff like, we had townhomes. So I did stuff like around the doorway, and the townhome face was way too tall for a ladder and didn't really have a roof and had like little ledges, but that was it.
Yeah.
And then we were in a house for a short period of time and moved away for a job, and I'll be moving back to that house. We put renters in there. And that roof is really high up, really, really steep. You would have to have belays on the other side type of thing.
Yeah.
So on this house we're in, I'm like, oh, I can tackle that roof. So I get on the roof and my feet start sliding because the sand on the roof shingle was a little bit looser. And my nuts went through my throat so fast. and I get to the edge and I'm like, the edge is just 2 feet from me. And I'm 25, 30 feet up. I'm like, man, if I fall off this, I'm not going to die, but my legs are broken. Like, this is going to hurt real bad. And my shoes couldn't grip. And so I'm like, let's wear socks. So I took my shoes off and was wearing socks, and the socks were sticking to the tile, to the shingles.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, like, man, if I go off of this thing, remember the whole don't say the don't thing. Don't focus your mind. I'm very, very trained in this. I'm like, okay, focus on where I'm going, focus on what I'm standing on, focus on what's happening, focus that I acknowledge there's a ledge there and that I'm going to go here. Right. And this is what I'm going to do. And my socks stuck very, very well. But, oh, man, I'm trying to put these ledges. My wife's watching me, and I'm putting these clips on the corner of the house. And I'm like, I wasn't like that 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I would have been like loving the adrenaline hit.
Yeah.
But now that I have kids and now I have more responsibilities and now I have dependence, not so much.
Right.
That fear was stronger than I'd ever experienced when it comes to heights. I mean, I've sat on the ledge of a 2,000-foot cliff and hung my feet over the edge and just kind of hung out on a 2,000-foot ledge many times. But it feels surreal. It looks like a painting. Right. And that, if you fall, you're dead. There's no feeling. Versus I fall off my roof, I'm going to shatter my legs. I'm going to break my hips and break my pelvis and break all kinds of crap.
I've told people I'm not scared of heights because after a certain point, like, if you fall, you're just done. But like there is a point, there's like this certain gap where it's like, okay, I might survive, but I'm definitely going to be injured.
Yeah. There's a training that people do for your mind. And they'll say, okay, I'm going to put this 2x4 on the ground and I'm going to pay you $100 to walk across it. Who will do it? Everybody do it. Okay. I'm going to place this 2x4 between two houses. You're 2 stories up. I'm going to pay you $100 to walk across it. Who's going to do it? Almost nobody. Same scenario. I'm on the roof and your child is on the other side and the house is on fire. And the only way they can get out is you go get them. Who would do it? Everybody would do it. Yeah. And it's the risk to reward.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. And like you said about having dependents and stuff, having kids and a wife, and my wife's a stay at home. She stays home and takes care of the kids while I work. And it's like, man, if I was to die, they need to be taken care of. I got a pretty good life insurance policy, just in case. But it's like, it's still that instant thought of if I'm done, like, I think I'd be able to support them. So.
And it's interesting how the mind works. But understanding it, and that's really why I went down that path. You asked if I like it. I love it because I love how the mind works. When I keynote, when I speak, it's all about mental states. It's all about putting your mind in a state of challenge
Right.
and purposely placing it in chaos, purposely placing it in stress,
Yeah.
controlled, nothing that will put you overboard. But as you stack that on, you will compound, right? And then at the end, you're like, man, how can you withstand that? I mean, I've got I'll call him an acquaintance. We know each other by name and face. If he sees me, he says, "What's up, Brad?" The dude did 101 Ironmans in 101 days straight, unbroken. And you say, how can you go through that? He shattered his patella on day 6. He broke most of his toes by day 5 out of 101. How?
Yeah.
And when you have it stack and you build this stress load, you become tempered. And it's that temperament of the mind that makes us you can achieve anything.
That's impressive, man. I mean, I've never met somebody who's done the Ironman challenge, but I mean, I've watched some of the shows. Yeah.
You know me.
Have you done it? Oh, you've done it? Nice. All right.
Yeah, I did an Ironman with him. So he did 101. His name, you can go look him up. His name's James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy. There's a documentary. He did 50 Ironmans in 50 days in all 50 states.
Wow.
But people said, oh, you did some of those triathlon runs on a treadmill, or you did this or that, because they had issues with the traveling, right? Alaska and Hawaii, and doing that all in 50 days. You got to figure that kind of demographic out. And so when he did the 101, he did it in his hometown, same track every day. And it was all Guinness approved. So he holds the world record for the most marathons in a given period, the most triathlons in a given period, the most Ironmans in a given period, the most, like, a lot of records were won in that thing. And it's a feat that will probably, in my opinion, stand for a very, 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 very long time.
That's some dedication.
And those two, James Lawrence and David Goggins, are the two people who are like, who's the most mentally tough? I'm like, they're two very different humans and very mentally tough in different capacities.
You talk about different humans, and it's crazy, doing this. I've had so many different people on from so many different backgrounds, and it's funny when you have conversations like what we're doing now. It's how many things are actually pretty similar, like that they're cross paths as far as like similar childhood experiences, or when we talked about the potato guns, I did that. It's like I've talked to people from Australia, from Europe, all over, and there's always something that's like, I know I've done that, or I've been there. It's fun. Doing this is a lot of fun.
We are more similar than we are dissimilar.
Right.
People think, oh, I'm so different. No. Yeah. We all are very, very, very similar around the world. I mean, my neighbor is from India, and I love photography. I've done it for 12 years. It's how Jesse and I met, was photography.
Okay.
And my neighbor from India loves photography. We both shoot the same gear. We both love cars. When he was in India, he did a certain type of car. And when he comes here, he does a certain type of, I do a certain type of car. And we both we're both petrol heads and have been our whole lives. Dudes from middle of nowhere, India. And we have more in common than not in common. And the only thing we don't have in common is just the way we look.
Yeah.
That's it. But that's the thing. That's the snowflake. You'll never find somebody like you. So there you go. But experience-wise, we're all so similar.
Right. Are you ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
All right. This kind of leads into the whole, almost falling off and kind of having that feeling of adrenaline, and now that you're, have dependence and stuff like that. So this next one says, am I getting older, or is Supermarket finally playing great music? Yes. No,
and they're all playing the 90s music right now.
Yes, they are. They're all playing the 90s stuff, man. What kind of music did you grow up listening to?
Oh man, my brother's 10 years older than me.
Okay.
And so I was raised with Metallica. and Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Stained and Korn and all those 90s, early, mid, late 90s grunge / metal bands. So that's mostly what my upbringing was. And for most of my life, I've been a metalhead.
Yeah.
And was proud of it. And more recently, I actually had an experience where I decided to delete pretty much all of my music and divorce that person.
Wow.
It's been interesting, and it was hard. When I say hard, I mean I was crying when I deleted it.
Was it, I mean, yeah, I have to die. Was it something that affected, did it affect that, like you? The music actually affect you?
So we are affected by everything.
Right.
Words are exceptionally powerful, and they are programming. And the words in music, the words in movies, the conversations you use, the words you use in your own mind,
Right.
they are programming you at all times. And it really started with that Sam Smith song that's really popular right now. I can't even think of the lyrics.
Body Shop song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That song's messed up. It's really gnarly. And like the beats are like, people were always playing, especially a couple months back, people were really into that song for their reels. And I had a friend post it. I'm like, oh man, that beat is such a good song, such a sick song. She's like, I know, it's so good. I'm like, and at this point I was starting to pay attention and read the lyrics to songs. I'm like, what does the lyrics say to this song? I've never even listened to it. And the entire song is about a dude cheating on his wife at the car shop. And that his wife doesn't know that he goes to the car shop and gets laid by the chick at the car shop.
Yep.
And I'm like, this song, and I went to her and I said, you know, I'm going to take back everything I said about that song. That song's horrible. Yeah. It's demeaning. It's, in my personal decision-making skills, it's very demonic. It's demonizing and removing the family system. I said, I don't agree with that song. And I remove everything I've ever said about that song being positive. And she goes, yeah, I know. I know. And I'm like, you knew the lyrics said that and you still said it's awesome? She goes, yeah, the lyrics are pretty messed up, but the beat's awesome. And I'm like, you're implanting, you're programming on a constant basis, and you're wondering why you're struggling to find somebody to get married to. And so I started paying attention to these songs, and I'm like, okay, what is the lyrics of this song? And some of these songs were bands I grew up loving. And I'm like, man, that's a really unresourceful song. It's not bringing me resource, and the lyrics are pretty pathetic. They're pretty bad. So I started deleting one at a time. I'm like, that's an unresourceful song. I don't want it. I don't want that energy. I don't want that space. I'm very, very sensitive to energies. For those that know, say I got like mala necklaces and I got bracelets, and I can't get my bracelet because it's stuck in my hoodie because it's freaking cold. So bracelets, and I do all those things. And I mean, I am very trained in altered states, very trained in energies. And I started recognizing when my energy state would shift from positive and resourceful to unresourceful. And I'm like, okay, I'm having a lot of unresourceful songs pop up on my phone, just playing random.
Right.
How many of these do I have? And so I started finding lots. And I started finding myself, instead of deleting, so I was just in the middle of the gym, I was in the middle of something, I was just forwarding song after song after song. I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. And so finally I was just sitting at my computer at work one day, and I'm like, a song was playing. I had music playing in the background. I was writing procedures for a company. And it's like, you know, what's easier, deleting one at a time or delete how many songs do I have that have never been played? So I went to I have an iPhone. So I went to Apple Music, and you can filter. I think you do this on Spotify too. Filter by numbers of plays. How many times it's been played ever? And I was one of those persons, like, if I liked a song from a band, I downloaded the whole discography.
Yeah.
That was me. So I'm like, oh, I got that band. Oh, I got that. I prided myself. I'm like, oh, I know them. Yeah, I have them. And people are like, man, especially in the metal genre, I'd be like, oh, the Browning. I know the Browning.
I love the Browning.
See, and people, that's not very many people that know the Browning. And
I've been to one of their shows. I actually was in the shoot of one of their music videos.
Nice. And so it's like, when you start getting down that genre on those type of bands, it's a connecting point. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I know the Browning. What?
Yeah.
And then we now instantly bond over the Browning. And I've had many instances where I've bonded with people over very obscure bands.
Right.
And that was a piece of me. That was part of my identity. And I have worked for years at this point on not identifying myself with things, because I went down this rabbit hole on who am I?
Right.
And people don't know that answer. I've actually never really met anybody that really intrinsic, unless they're trained, that knew the answer on who am I?
Right.
And so I just deleted everything that I never listened to, had 0 listens. And I'm like, what about the 1 listens? What about the 2 listens? What about the 3 listens? So I deleted everything from 5 listens and less. Didn't matter what it was, didn't matter the band. I deleted all of them. And then I started going through and being like, okay, I don't like this song. Delete the whole band. I don't like the song. Delete the whole band. And
Right.
so I started scrolling through and going through the bands that I know are very resourceful. They're Christian-based bands. They're positive-based bands. They're uplifting lyrically bands just in general, because that's just the demographic they cater to.
Right.
I kept those. But more often than not, I listen to a lot of acoustic these days.
Okay.
And no lyrics. So either acoustic or just instrumental albums. So I have metal bands that they have instrumental albums.
Yeah.
And so I just listen to the instrumental of albums.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what took me down that path. But it was really removing this identity.
Yeah.
And it was difficult because I didn't realize that I was divorcing this person I was and becoming somebody new. And it was very difficult to overcome. And once I got through that trauma, it was very exhilarating to delete more and find this new person and is what's coming out. And I've brought some of that music back. Some that I'm like, oh, I missed that song. I missed that band. Let's go check it out. But now I'm bringing it in cautiously versus having to skip through.
Actually listening to the lyrics and everything, what it means. Yeah.
The lyrics, the tonality, the frequencies, with the background in chemistry and physics and quantum chemistry, the vibrations and the frequencies and what sound does to our bodies is pretty wild. I mean, you've been to concerts.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the concert is different than when you listen with your headphones.
Uh-huh. And I tell people that too. Like, so I've actually lost interest in bands because of their live performance not being what I wanted it to, or not what I expected when I listened to it, you know?
Because it's manufactured. It wasn't real.
Right. And it's I listen to everything. I grew up listening to a lot of like classic gospel country.
Pentecostal.
And,
so
yeah. And then my dad's side, it was a lot of like Tom Petty, Paul McCartney, you know, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, Kiss. My grandpa was a big part of my life, and it was you know, Gloria Estefan, Paul Abdul,
there you go,
smooth jazz. And now I listen to pretty much everything. Like, I listen to all music. I love death metal. There's actually some bands out there that are heavier, even though you can't hear the lyrics. The lyrics actually tell stories. You know, there's some actually heavy metal bands that have really interesting lyrics.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And
heavy metal, interestingly enough, is the closest to classical by way of temper, timbre, cadence, all those things. So like I had a friend that he was a music major, getting his master's degree in classical music. The dude was a total metalhead, like big hair, and he was in a metal band. He was the guitarist of a metal band. I'm like, metal band and you're studying classical? Is like, you ever notice that most metal bands actually listen to classical because they're the most two similarly related? It's like,
okay.
Oh, all right. There you go. So, you know, the band Bring Me a Horizon.
Yeah, of course.
By album 2, they only listen to classical.
Like the band members did?
The band members, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, by album 2, they only listened to classical. They didn't want to be influenced by other people.
Yeah.
And they wanted to stay true to their roots. And metal and classical are the most two closely related.
It's funny because I kind of diving into a lot of like British hip hop lately, actually. There's a lot of British hip hop artists that I like, and people are like, well, you can kind of understand what they're saying. Their life experiences are actually what they talk about is a little different than what we talk about. And I like that.
You know Tiny Tempa?
Of course.
Yeah.
But it is. It's crazy. Like music. That's why the name Jukebox Ginger actually was meant to just be kind of funny. But I used to not be a very social person because of my childhood. And when I got into high school, I started getting into more heavier, rock music and metal. And then I started finding friends and meeting people that were into that kind of stuff. And then I kind of opened up to more and more genres of music. And that's kind of my icebreaker when I meet people. What kind of music you listen to? Because most likely I know some sort of artist that's within the genre that they like. So yeah, Jukebox Ginger kind of stuck with me, and
it's a bonding. That's how I had it. That's why I identified the way I did.
Yeah. So yeah,
and I still can, because I still know most of those bands. I don't listen to them frequently or at all, but I still know the band. You still be like, oh, dude, you ever heard Ginger? It's like, yeah, dude, she is brutal.
Yes, she is.
And then she also has like one of the most eloquent voices of all time, and then can go brutal.
Yeah.
And then you hear I just forgot. It's another female artist that she has a vocal range that is astronomical. Goes very high, very low, cleans, and then can go guttural deeper than most males.
Yeah. I know a couple of them.
Oh man, that's gonna bug me now. I'm gonna look it up now.
There's a band called Spirit Box. I've
listened to Spirit Box.
Is that it?
I'm like, it's box.
Yeah.
It's Spirit Box. Yeah.
Spirit Box. Yeah. And their music's all over the place too.
Oh, she's everywhere. Yeah, and her favorite artist of all time is Sam from Architects.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
Architects'
sense.
lead vocalist. That's who she idolizes. And cool story, man. She idolizes him. She formed her vocal profile around him. And on their latest album, he was featured.
Okay. Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, he's featured artist in their latest album. And I listened to a thing about them talking about that. And they said, who do you look up to? She goes, I really look up to, what's her name from Ginger? I did not realize she was the vocalist for I Wrestled the Bear Once for the last 2 albums.
Yes, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, the original vocalist got pregnant and she was on tour as just like a local band. Like, hey, can you step in? She's pregnant, not feeling good. And so she stepped in because she knew the lyrics to the song, and they knew that she was in a similar vocal range, but she was very, very new. And she mapped her profile around Sam from Architects, early Architects. And back when he was more like deathcore, screamcore.
Okay.
And she became permanent vocalist for I Wrestled the Bear Once for the last 1 or 2 albums, and then broke free and didn't want to be in the mathcore scene anymore, and then started Spirit Box. But she formed it around Sam's profile with her own tweak and with a little more beautification. She's very airy in her vocals, right? Yes. And let's see, Spirit Box album Eternal Blue, Yellow Jacket with Sam Carter.
Okay, I'll check it out.
He's the lead singer from Architects, and it's super cool because this is who she formed everything around, and then he sang with her. And I think about it in our lives too. How often do we do something because somebody else and realize you can become friends with them no matter how far off you think they are?
Yeah. No, and I've actually I've had a lot of podcasters reach out to me like, hey, can you get in touch with this person for me, or try to reach out to them because they don't have that confidence to reach out. And I'm like, what? And I reach out to people on Instagram all the time. I'm like, the worst thing they're going to do is either say no or they're just not going to respond. Like, this doesn't hurt to just try.
Yeah. I have a very, very vast network. My network is really powerful and very, very wealthy.
Yeah.
People say, how do you know them? Oh, I message them on Instagram.
Yeah.
They're like, and they answered? Yeah. Have you ever tried answering them? No. I'm like, well, there's a little tactic to it. If they got a couple million followers, we'll start pinging up some of their posts and start putting some comments in so they see your name.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden hit it in their comments, and it won't be in the hidden section. It'll just be in the it won't be in the really hidden section.
Yeah.
And it'll pop up, and somebody, their manager, will be like, oh, I've seen this name a lot.
Yeah.
I've made some connections.
Russell Brand has commented on a few posts that I've, commented on. He had something where he was like meditating in front of the woods and like in the corner, the branches look like the logo for like a metal band or something like that. So I threw that in there, and he's like, "No wonder I can't find my inner peace." Just something funny, and it's like, "Oh, hey, you responded."
And it's your energy too. It transfers.
Yeah, no,
People feel it. You'll see it.
I definitely want to, wrap this up with that topic in mind. We talked about energies a few times, and I'm actually, like I said, I'm very spiritual. What is your view on do you believe we get reincarnated? Do you believe we just go somewhere after alert words? Like, what is your idea of an energy?
Yeah, of an energy or of you?
I don't know. You talk about energies,
I do talk about energy. Everything has an energy.
Yeah.
Everything has energy.
Yeah.
Everything has a movement. Therefore, everything has energy. And so, I mean, this mouse and my phone, they all have energies, and they all have the ability to impact you based off of energy, vibration, and frequency. Because energy is just a source, right? So anything that has movement has an energy, and every molecule has movement, because there's no such thing as absolute zero. There should be no movement at all. But by way of me and my spirit, so I said before who I am, most people don't know that answer. And I ask people, who are you? They'll say, oh, I'm a son, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a coworker, I'm a male, I'm a fitness athlete, I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, cool, that's all descriptions about you. That's not who you are. Who are you? And the answer is, you are the one who experiences, right? Because this, if I like this, what's this? This is my head. I'm saying my head as if I own it, but it's not me. This is my elbow. This is something I contain. It's not me. This is just a meat suit, a vessel to which holds me and holds my spirit. Well, that's just a spiritual entity that's holding me. What is me? I'm the one that experiences. That's who I am. I'm just an energy that experiences. I feel that, and I believe that energies can neither be created nor destroyed. I am God-fearing. I am Christian-based. And God is a God of order. Does not create. He organizes. The earth was organized. We see that in the Old Testament. We see things are organized. So our energies are eternal. With that being in mind, I don't believe in reincarnation personally. I do believe in a heaven, and I wouldn't say a hell per se. Background is Mormon. So for those that recognize that, there's 3 degrees of glory, and then you have outer darkness, which most of Christendom would call outer darkness hell. That's where Satan dwells. So that is my presence, that your body be reunited with your spirit. So this body, but it's not necessarily, wouldn't look like this, right? Because this is just a compilation of my parents. So that's why you can see somebody and you know them, but you've never met them, but you have met them. And I don't believe this is what I will look like when my body is brought back. So I do believe that Christ died on the cross for me, for my sins, and that he was brought back and is a perfected being, that we too can become like that if we choose to. Going off of the concept of a poor man is not comfortable in a rich man's house, and a rich man's not comfortable in a poor man's house. You have different degrees, and you will go where you're most comfortable. It's not that like, okay, this hell is only for evil people. It's, you chose this life because that's who you are, and you would not be comfortable in a higher degree of glory, because they're all degrees of glory. So
I
you
agree
go
with
where you go where you're comfortable.
I in my views, and again, my curiosity on religion has always been fascinating. I've had Satanists on here and had perfectly fine conversations with them,
Of course.
but I've always, I guess my views on energy, and I think the reason why I believe in the reincarnation is because I thought, in my mindset, is energies are created to learn and develop, and that our physical forms don't last long enough for us to learn all the lessons that we need to learn to excel to whatever is after. And that when we transfer between bodies, we don't choose whether we're female or male. That's why some people become, or gay or not, because
or
our
trans,
energies don't, our energies don't acknowledge a gender. It's just, what we learn. So I mean, that's my idea of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, who's to say who's what?
Yeah. Right. And that's why like I said, I'm intrigued and I'm fascinated by religion and I love it. I grew up in it, and definitely a spiritual person. I definitely believe in, energies existing even after we pass. And yeah, everybody's allowed to have their views of it. And as long as at the end of the day, I don't think that anybody should pressure somebody into being something, So
yeah, my brother, he's left all religion. He's anti-religion, anti-God. He thinks when you lay down, the lights go out and it's over.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And he would always just badger me and my beliefs and my thoughts. And so finally we were hiking in the middle of nowhere and he was just railing on me, especially being Mormon. So he was railing on me. And I'm like, okay, dude, you do what you do. Do you do it because you think that is what it takes to be a good person? I said, absolutely. So do you strive to be a good person? Yeah. Do you strive to be not a dickhead? Yeah. I was like, me too. And this is my way of being the best person I can be and doing what I think is right to guide me down this path. Why would you fault me for that if I'm just trying to do my best and this is the path I feel is best for me?
Right.
Well, I guess I'm not. I'm like, at the end of the day, are you a dickhead? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, I don't want to deal with you. If the answer is no, and you're just trying to be a cool person and a good person and do good in life and just be kind, cool.
Right.
Whether you said there's a Satan, you've had Satanists on here, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, are you a dickhead? Like, are you trying to be a jerk and you trying to just cause harm to people? Then I don't want to associate with you. But if you truly feel that the path of Satan is good for you to be a good person, sweet man, you do you.
Right. And he's like, it's not, and even his response was, I don't necessarily believe in Satan. I just, am anti-religion. Okay, cool. Whatever. Still a good person. He was still a nice person. Here's
the thing. When I moved to Utah, where I lived, very, very few people of color. Like,
very few people Utah of color in general.
Not as much of the east on the east side in Salt Lake County. There's a lot of diversity now. But where I grew up, 99% white Mormon.
Yeah.
White active Mormon. Yeah. And that was a big culture shock. I mean, New Jersey, 51 dark, 49 light in my school. I was one of two Mormon kids in a school of 2,000.
Right.
And I was the minority in like every capacity. And the teacher came up. I was like, it was like the second week of school. She goes, there's this new student. He's black. Who's going to be his friend? And everybody raised their hand and I didn't. And she looked at me. She goes, are you racist? I said, no. I mean, we all have some kind of racism and it's like differential, but no. I mean, what if he's a dickhead? Then I want to be his friend. I will let you know if I want to be his friend when I meet him.
Right.
And I met him and he was a dickhead. He made people literally carry him down the hallways in our middle school because he was the only black kid. And I'm like, dickhead, not going to be his friend. And, and I've never forgot that lesson on judging people by the contents of their character, not by how they look. I've got friends that are.
When I said in the beginning about, I'm really good at reading people, and those that I don't feel like I'm going to be comfortable around or conversing with, I typically will avoid. And if there has to be confrontation, so be it. But or a conversation at all, so be it. I'm usually pretty civil. But there's people that I just, again, if you can read people, you can usually tell if somebody's not going to be somebody that you want to.
Yeah. I was at an event and I was hanging out with a dude. He was next to me at the urinal. And
nice.
And I didn't ask him, didn't care. I would guess he's somewhere in the transfluidic category. All face makeup. He was wearing a coat that went all the way down. He was wearing like 5-inch stilettos. He had the whole works, but he was like, dude, chick, transfluidic of sorts.
Yeah.
Super cool guy. I'm like, dude, that coat is banging. Like that coat is dope. It was a white and black pinstripe all the way to the ground. And he looked at me and he in a very, very feminine, oh my gosh. Cause I love shoes.
Right.
So I typically have very flashy shoes. And he goes, your shoes are amazing. And we had a great conversation. And funny enough, we ran into each other at the bathroom like 4 times. And every single time we had a great conversation. How often do we see somebody different than us and then push them away because they're different? But in reality, like we said earlier, we actually have more similarities than we do differences. The only difference is the way we look. And you and I look different. We're both white dudes, red hair. You can't see my hair, but it's red. We're both red-headed white dudes. But do we have more similarities in who we are, like potato guns as a kid, than the way we look?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, this show has definitely developed a lot more, and as I've gone on, because when I first started it, the idea was my wife likes reading reviews on Amazon and stuff like that, so she'd giggle and have me read a review, or I'm like, oh, okay, so the 5 faces of the stardom is the 5-star rating. That's what a lot of people go based on, is the reviews and how many stars does it have. So I got the 5 faces of 5 different emotions going on there, and it's just kind of express the different reactions people have. But that was initially the idea. I'm going to read reviews with guests. But the more I had people on, the more that I realized that the conversations, there was so much more to it, that it's developed into this. It's like, as long as the conversation is interesting and intriguing, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the topics are. The only thing that those are for is if the conversation gets too off track and it's just not intriguing and not what I want to talk about. Are we going politics? Because I'm just going to go right back. I can't do politics. I can't, I don't want to talk about it because I don't have a voice for it. So like the topics are just here for the random conversation and to meet interesting people and have a good time. So I really appreciate you coming on here today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time. Appreciate the listeners. And any way I can help, man.
Yeah.
Always glad to.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on social. You can find me. My handle is Mr. Brad Draper. That's on Instagram. That's on YouTube. That's the easiest way to find me, actually. So.
All right. Well, and I'll tag all of your stuff in the description for the show. Send you links as well. And I always tell my guests, anything on here that you want, it's yours. The show is yours as much as it is mine. So anything you want from it, you can have. I always post clips and reels from all my shows, so you'll see your beautiful face on my stuff every now and then.
We'll have it, and we'll share the tag. And and you can find my podcast as well. It's The Hard Choice on all platforms. And you mentioned my wife and I's podcast. That's a couples podcast, and that's called Choosing Us.
It's wonderful, man. Podcasting is a lot of fun.
It is.
It's I never thought talk radio would be my thing, but here I am.
Here we are. Didn't think it'd be my thing either, and here we are. Cool, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, and to everybody that's listening or gonna listen, we appreciate you. And until next time, we'll see you around.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.